And working our way through Genesis. We've been talking about creation, talking about the flood, and, well, today we get to learn about what happens after the flood, especially when we start dealing with the city, of which ends up having a tower in it that has, well, grown to a lot of fame. So we'll be having a lot of good time with this. It's going to be a little weird in format because we're going to start off reading all of chapter 10, which is going to seem like reading an obituary in the back of a newspaper. It'll be just as exciting, except without the plot and character development. It's going to be a list of names, and should you ever be looking for naming a child, you might be able to come up with some inspiration with this great list of names. Okay, you might just look and say, oh, I wish I would have named my child that. Oh, they would have been picked on in school. So, in fact, Rachel and I actually consulted some of these lists when we were thinking about what to name our first child. In case you haven't noticed, no baby yet. I'm going to pause here for a second. Just between you guys and I, when it comes to the idea of having our first child, I'm freaking out. Just letting you know, I'm freaking out. You know, I have weird emotions that come and go throughout the given day. There are days, even this morning, where I see my wife walking, and I see, actually I'm pushing her in a wheelchair a little bit because she pulled a muscle in her leg. So if you see her in a wheelchair, that's why it hurts to walk. But I see the belly, and I think to myself, that's just the way she's supposed to be. There's no baby in there. Everything's fine. Everything's normal. The status quo is okay. And then every now and then I'll tell myself, no, there's a baby in there. But it doesn't feel like there's a baby in there. You know, I'll just be like, oh, it's just 9 months of having a big belly. Okay. You know, that's normal. It just seems to just gradually grown, and every now and then she'll wear a shirt just right, and I'll go, holy cow, that's sticking out far. And then I remember, there's a baby in there. And then my brain goes, ah! You know, I start freaking out. It's intense. So anyway, just letting you know my journey thus far. To give you updated on that, we will be having a baby this week, Lord willing. Because starting tomorrow, we have a doctor appointment in the morning, and they're going to schedule the induction day because she's already about a week overdue. So they're going to induce if she doesn't give birth within the next couple days. So Monday, we'll have that appointment set. Christmas Day. So needless to say, with having a baby born this week, whenever that's going to happen, then Christmas Eve with Christmas Eve service, then Christmas Day, I'm going to show up as a zombie Sunday morning next week. Okay, it'll be Night of the Living Dead, and I'll talk the same way. I'll be like, Jesus loves you. No, that's gonna be it. So just letting you know, next week my hair might be frazzled, and I don't know what it's gonna be like. So I just want to let you know, I'll probably show up in PJ, just kind of like, hey, far out. I'm a dad. I need psychiatric help. So, anyways, that's just my journey up to this point. So keep us in your prayers as soon as the baby is born. We will notify everyone on Facebook. I'll give you calls. Don't worry. So anyway. Welcome. Are you ready for studying Scripture? Oh, good. Let's start off with the word of prayer, and then we're going to dig right into Genesis, teeth and nail. Here we go. So let's pray. Merciful Heavenly Father, I praise you, Lord, for just this day that you have blessed us with. I praise you for your word. And Lord, this morning, some of us have so many things on our mind, weighing them down. Lord, I ask that you help us to have a moment's peace from those things, that we will not be distracted from studying your word. Lord, I ask that with your Spirit you might prick our hearts and convict us, that we might live lives that honor you, speak words that glorify you, and have thoughts that praise you. This I pray in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, Genesis Chapter 10, I'm telling you, this is going to be great. There's a whole bunch of names here for you. In case you don't remember, or you haven't been with us, or you're tuning in online with one of our live streams for the first time, then Genesis chapter 10 starts with the phrase, verse 1 here, now these are the records of the generations of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the son of Noah, and sons born to them after the flood. This term, generations, or the records of, is a Hebrew term known as toledot. So these are considered toledotes. And Moses uses these toledotes, if you will, to create chapter breaks within the book of Genesis. They are intentional, and those are really how he divides the sections himself. So we get the generations of, a toledot. It's their timeline. So that's what we're going to be dealing with here is another or the next toledot section. This person has many kids, and of all their children, different things occurred, and then eventually in the end, everybody dies. Isn't that inspiring? Except for here on out, post-flood here, starting at chapter 10 onward, there isn't as much of the emphasis on death. So-and-so lived so many years and had sons and daughters. Next person doesn't use the phrase, and then died. So before the flood, we get constant emphasis of death, and then died, and they died, and they died. Starting here, it's more like there's an emphasis of life. They lived, they lived, they lived. So just notice that when you look through Genesis chapters 1 through 11, especially, the die, 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 flood, live, live, live. Just notice that. It's very intriguing that Moses writes this way. And after all, 2 Timothy 3:16 says, all Scripture is God-breathed and profitable for correction and rebuke and teaching and instruction, which includes genealogies. Yay. This will be boring. Enjoy. So, Genesis chapter 10. We already got verse 1, verse 2. The sons of Japheth were Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshech and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz and Riphath and Togarmah. If I mess these up, it's all right, right? Oh, good. So moving on, verse 4, and the sons of Javan were Elisha and Tarshish and Kittim and Dodanim, and from these the coastlands of the nations were separated into their lands, every one according to his language, according to their families and to their nations. I'm going to pause here for 2 seconds. This is interesting because Genesis chapter 10 and Genesis chapter 11 are chronologically out of order. Chapter 11 happens before chapter 10. Okay, Moses writes out of order, randomly, and often. You'll find if you go through Exodus that things are out of order. Moses will meet in the tent of meeting. Then 4 chapters later, God says, here's how you build the tent of meeting, and then they build it. But yet Moses already met in it. It's chronologically out of order. It's intentional. It's not accidental. It's not like Moses was walking with all these books and all of a sudden a big wind came in, blowing papers everywhere, and he just picked up 2 out of order. That's not what happened here. Okay, so you'll find in chapter 11, verse 1, it even says, now the whole earth used the same language and the same words. What was it we saw in verse 5? That everyone according to their language, that there was different languages. So God's going to confuse the languages in chapter 11, of which we get this verse 5 of chapter 10. So you see the chronological break? It's intentional. The question is going to be, why? Glad you asked. Actually, you didn't, but I asked it for you. We're going to find out today why, and then we can all sleep at night. Verse 6. And the sons of Ham were Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush were Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ramah were Sheba, and Dedan. And now Cush became the father of Nimrod. Not a name I'd recommend for your sons. He became a mighty one on the earth, and he better with a name like that. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, or should be translated Babylon. Talk about that later. And Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. From that land he went forth into Assyria, and built Nineveh, and Rehoboth-ir, and Calah, and Resen, between Nineveh and Calah. That is the great city. And Mizraim became the father of Ludim, and Anamim, and Lahabim, and Nephtuhim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, from which came the Philistines, and Caphtorim. And Canaan became the father of Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Ammonite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterwards the family of the Canaanite were spread abroad. And the territory of the Canaanite extended from Sidon as you go toward Gerar as far as Gaza, as you go toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, by their lands, by their nations. And also Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, and the older brother of Japheth's children were born. The sons of Shem were Elam and Ashur, and Arpachshad, and Lud, and Aram. And the sons of Aram were Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arpachshad became the father of Shelah, and Shelah became the father of Eber. And he later went on to make a column in the newspaper. No, wrong guy. And 2 sons were born to Eber. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan became the father of Almadad, and Sheleph, and Hazamarbeth, and Jerah, and Hadoram, and Uzel, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab, and all these were the sons of Joktan. Now their settlement extended from Mesha as you go towards Sephir, the hill country of the east. These are the sons of Shem, according to their families, according to their languages, by their lands, according to their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, according to their genealogies, by their nations. And out of these nations they were separated on the earth after the flood. I'm going to have someone volunteer to read that next time. So this is chapter, like I said, it's really exciting stuff, isn't it? Okay, and so what we get here is there's a lot of names here. There's a lot of names. And notice, they made scripture. That's just awesome all by itself. There's nothing really spectacular about these people. They didn't really do, some of them did some mighty things. They were great hunters or made some cities or whatever. But overall, they're just people. And God took notice of those people. He knew what they were doing. He knew what they were about. He knew where they were, and God noticed them. So that in itself is just an encouragement to know that even though we may feel like a minuscule boat lost at sea, God knows exactly where our boat is. He knows where we are throughout life, and on all the faces of the earth, He knows where you are and what you're going through. And so that's just that neat encouragement of these are these people, and God knows them, and He is there with them. And so what's going to now end up taking place is that we find out in chapter 11 that something happens with these people. There's something that's going to take place that's going to disrupt and offend God, and He's going to get absolutely ticked, and the question is going to be, why is He so ticked? Why did He get mad at all the people, some of which we just got through reading about? And so chapter 11, verse 1 is, now the whole earth used the same language and the same words. This is Moses saying, just in case you missed it, I'm out of order here chronologically. Just FYI. Consider it the end of the commercial, now to the story. Okay, so he points it out here. Verse 2, and they came about as they journeyed east. Remember now, east is constantly a description in Genesis here to mean metaphorically moving further away from God. Okay, they got kicked out of the garden that was in Eden, and they went east. And then after Cain killed Abel, Cain went and built the city that was east. And after now that they've done with the flood, where are they going? East. Okay, so it's constantly moving further and further away from God. Kind of like us being okay here, but if we move to Lansing, okay, it's just going to be the end of us. So anyway, just kidding. So they moved east, and they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they used brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. And they said, come, let us build for ourselves a city, a tower whose top will reach into heaven, and let us make for ourselves a name, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, behold, they are one people, and they have the same language. And this is what they began to do. And now nothing which they propose to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down, that Trinitarian type language again. Let us go down there, confuse their language, and that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore, a place was called Babel, or Babylon, or Babel on, and I'm allowed one pun. That was it. Because the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the whole earth. And so, here's what's going on. We're dealing with the city of Babel here, okay? Or Babylon is really kind of what we're dealing with here. This city is east, and this city gets in the coloring books a lot. It's amazing when you look at a children's coloring book, what stories get put in and how it's interpreted. You know, you get Noah and the ark in the coloring books, but you don't get bodies floating on the water. You don't get things hitting the edge of the hull of the boat or anything, and you definitely don't get Noah passed out naked in the tent. And those don't make the coloring books. But the Tower of Babel does. But notice that the emphasis is not on the tower here. The emphasis is on the city that happens to contain a tower. That was this defining feature, kind of like our Amway building here. You look at our skyline, and most people know Grand Rapids by the one building with the stupid slanted roof, right? And I look at that and I think, man, that'd be good sledding. You know, but that's our skyline, and that's a big distinguishing feature for us. And for this city, it was this tower. And I went online, because, you know, there's always so much wisdom to be found online, that I found this painting. I found this painting of Babel, or of Babylon, if you will, of this time period. Of course, what is it that is all emphasizing is this massive, humongous tower that stretches up into the heavens. But here's the funny part, is we don't know much about this tower. This whole thing is actually a big question mark. We don't know much about it. We don't know much of what it was like. We just know that it had a tower. And so what happens is different texts and different coloring books and different Bible study footnotes and whatnot will tend to lead to the conclusion that the city was the evil that the people did, and that's why God got mad. That he was mad that they built the city, and that this tower reached into the heavens. And that was their sin, was a tower that reached into the heavens. And so influential was that point of view that many cities were founded with an ordinance or law that said you will not build a building above so many stories. And even came a mindset from that even affected many Hollywood movies and different stories that were about the country is good, the city is bad. That you want to be a good country person, and you want to listen to country music. Don't listen to rock and roll, because that's city music, and it's bad. And of course, we now realize they got it backwards. And it's the country music that's the downfall. But that's that attitude, though. That city is bad, and you want to avoid the city. You want to get away from that, and you want to, even movies today like Sweet Home Alabama, everybody's in the city, and it's cold, and it's a concrete jungle, but once you get to some little suburban city or some little place out in the middle of Alabama in Hickville, suddenly everybody knows your name, everybody's polite, everything is happy, there's colors, and it's peace on earth, and you can find the love of your life, usually some hot chick that should have belonged in the city. And so that's usually how the movies are designed, right? And it's this country good, city bad. But the Bible is very pro-city. It is very pro-city. God builds a garden in Eden, but ends in Revelation with the city. The New Jerusalem descending from the heavens onto the new earth. It's like God plants a garden with the city in mind. And Jesus travels from where? From city to city to city. That's how Jesus does his ministry. He's very pro-city. God has a heart for city. In fact, even Jesus said in Matthew that he wants the church and the apostles to be like a city on a hill that points a light to God in the darkness over all the land. He wants the church to be that light, a city on a hill, to lead everyone to God. That's what he wants. That's his goal. So it's very much, God has this big-time heart for the city. So therefore, since God has a heart for cities, cities are not evil. Ergo, yeah, I used that word. If the city is not evil, that means that building this city was not the sin that the people did. Okay, so that is not the downfall here. It's not that there was some evil tower that goes up like they teach in those coloring books. It's not this big bad tower that God wants to crumble. That's not the issue here. Okay, it's not the issue here. And by the way, it's not just children's coloring books. One of my commentaries actually has written in it the description of the Tower of Babel. And it talks about how the tower was, how it looked, how it was designed, how each floor had different colors, and that they were radiant like a rainbow sideways. And at the top of the building, there was these astrological symbols and zodiac signs all over the ceiling, and that they actually built a throne on top, and that the top of the building was heaven itself, and that they were God, and that's why God hated the tower and hated the city. We don't even know what it looks like. We haven't found it. It's a ruins. We don't know. There's not that type of description. So, that's what I say to that. And here's the thing. If the people were really doing astrology and worshiping false gods, you know what would be written in the text? And the people worshiped false gods. It's written all over the Bible and all over Moses' writings that they went to false gods and false idols and this, that, and the other. He doesn't use it here, which means likely they weren't worshiping false gods at this point, not in idolatry like we would expect. So that's not what's happening here. So Raspberry, to that point of view, that does mean then that we do have to ask the question, why was God mad? Why did God get so offended over what they were doing? Why did he confuse the languages the way he did? I mean, was it just that God was like, wow, look at these people. They're doing great things. I will confuse their language so they won't compete with me. I mean, that's not a God-like attitude. So that's not it. So what is it? What is it that offended God? So we'll look at the towering problems, not problems of a tower, that is taking place within this passage. First we find in verse 4 of chapter 11, and they said, come, let us build for ourselves a city, a tower whose top will reach into heaven, and let us do what? Make a name for ourselves. AKA, their first problem was very much pride. Okay, their problem was, first off, very much pride. The people wanted to be special. They wanted to be great. They wanted to be known for something. They wanted to be able to look and say, see, I did that. I have under my belt certain levels of achievement. See how great I am. Okay, and I love God's response to this in verse 5. I love it. It says, and the Lord came down to see. It's like man's greatest achievement was still minuscule to God. It's like they built this high tower, and they said, look, it's the Empire State Building. And look how tall it is. It's amazing. Look at our Space Needle. We got these big buildings with a rotating restaurant on top. How amazing is that? Look at our achievements. And then God has to go reach into a pocket, magnifying glass. Oh yeah, there it is. I see it now. Oh yeah, look at that. Hey, did you know I built the earth? You know, I mean, that's God. Okay, he has to stoop down to see their achievement. Okay, that no matter how great we think we are, it is always less than God. Always less than God. But that's the human way. It's like a seesaw with the problem. We have mankind on one end of the seesaw, God on the other. You only can elevate one. Okay, and it's supposed to be God's up here and we're down here with an infinite chasm in between that only can be reached by God himself. I mean, there's that infinite chasm because we're creation. He is creator. He's on a whole different plane, whole different level. He is so much greater. So he's here and we're down here. But what's the habit of society? To try to elevate man and lower God, if not delete him altogether. They want to tip the seesaw the other direction. And you can't elevate both. It's not how it's supposed to be, because we can never be greater than being creation. We can't be greater than that. And so that's what's happening. It's That's what they're doing there. They're elevating themselves. They don't want to make God's name great. They want to make their own name great. They don't want to point people to God. They want to point people to their city, to themselves. But of course, hey, that was a problem back then. Us in America or in Michigan here, we don't have a problem with that. There's no pride in our state. Yeah, there is. Just attend a high school reunion. Anybody ever attend a high school reunion? I'm curious. How much bragging goes on at a high school reunion, right? It seems like it's just about bragging rights. That's all it is. People will get together. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. I did so and so. I have this and I have this and I have this. I've done all this stuff. I have a big job. I have a big house. I have a big car. I got a big yard. I got myself some big kids. I got big ideas. I got big plans. I got big income. And I just want to say, wow, I need a big shovel and a big bag to put this in. It's a good thing you got a big dog because you have just what I need. And now you climb in yourself. It's that ego, that bragging, all that we have and all how great we are. And no matter how much we accomplish, it is microscopic to God. It is microscopic to how great God is. On Judgment Day, when that day comes and you die, we're mortal. I know. Isn't this inspiring? It's Christmas. I'm talking about death. Okay? And check this out, though. When you die and you are face to face to God, okay, which is what's going to happen to everybody on the face of this earth, they're going to come face to face with their Creator. He's going to, in a sense, ask for your resume. And what he's going to look for when he asks for your resume is, what's on this resume? Is there, at the very top, Jesus? That's his question. If there's no Jesus, the resume means nothing. Means nothing. It is Jesus that makes it significant. We are sinful, fallen, imperfect beings who mess up more than not. And no good behavior, no action on our part can fix that sin problem. It can't happen. We cannot fix it because we are the problem. It takes Jesus to fix it. And no resume of any job or achievement or whatever, no matter how many charities you built, no matter how many things you gave to, no matter how nice you were to the neighbor's dog, it won't matter if Jesus isn't at the top of that resume. Because only Jesus fixes that sin problem. It is Jesus only. Okay? And that's it. So God looks at this and he says, you guys are supposed to be about me. You're supposed to be about God. You're not supposed to be about yourselves. And so God sees all their wickedness and he realizes, and he knows that he made man great. He did. He made man good. He made man great. Man is great. And now that man is fallen and sin twisted, man will do great evil. Man in his and her greatness will do great evil. And needs a greater being, God. That's what they need. So God sees this and says, now no evil is going to be impossible for them. Now if they're going to be like this and this bent toward themselves, then really nothing's impossible at this point when it comes to their type of wickedness and their type of pride and their type of attitude like this. Something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. So that was problem number one, is the issue of pride. Problem number two follows afterward. And it has to deal with the motivation why they built the city in the first place. Okay, so problem one was pride. Okay, let us come make a name for ourselves. Second, last part of that verse 4. Lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. That's sin number 2. Now you might say, what? How is that sin number 2? What was God's commandment to Abraham and to Noah, and therefore to all of mankind of which they were creating? To go and multiply and fill the earth. What were these people wanting to do? They wanted to avoid filling the earth. They did not want to go and multiply and seize and fill the earth. They did not want to take care of all of God's creation. They wanted to just stay in their own little four walls, in their own little community, and their own little knit tight little family and clique and little group and call it good. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to just be there and not to spread. They wanted to avoid that. That is why God confused the languages. That is why God said, I will confuse the tongues. You know, why does that work? Because are you really going to hang around someone you don't understand? I mean, now I have a little bit of an arrogant streak in me sometimes, but I'll explain how the division works with my arrogant streak, okay? Here's how this works. I will have times where I work part-time, a few hours a week at the bus station downtown. And I will occasionally have somebody come up to the window that does not speak English. And they will try to buy a ticket to go across the United States, not being able to speak a word of English. And they'll come up to you and they'll say, blah, 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 whatever it is. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. And now what? The arrogant streak comes in. In the back of my mind comes the thought, go back to your country. That's what I think. Learn to speak English or leave. That's my streak that I get in my head. Because if you're going to live in this country, I'm like, speak English. At least be able to function. At least say the name of a city. If you can say Grand Rapids, Los Angeles, fine, I can hook you up. I'll be glad to get you going. But if you can't even say that, learn to speak something. That's where my mind goes, okay? Because when you have a confusion of languages, you cannot get along. You can't communicate right. And so what's going to happen is that when God confused the languages, they would begin to gather in groups with people that they understand. That's what they're going to do. It's natural that way. Why do you think cliques form in schools? Cliques in schools and cliques in churches are actually natural because those are the people that get you. They have figured you out and appreciate it. But if you have someone that can't understand you, they don't get you, they don't understand your sense of humor, and then they're like, man, I don't get it. You're weird. Well, I'm not going to hang around you then. We're not going to go to the movies because you're going to want to go to that movie and I don't want to see it. I want to go to this one. And we just don't understand each other. We are speaking English, but we're not talking the same language. Somehow our T's and Q's are getting crossed. And so that's the thing. So God confuses the languages so that they will scatter. They're going to get the people that they understand, that get them, that they can communicate with and work with, and then they're going to go to different areas of land and settle there. It forces them to scatter. It forces them to go about. Now, does God undo himself? I mean, think of Pentecost now. In the book of Acts, what happens in Acts? Suddenly, there's a big rushing wind that comes in and blows the windows open as the God's Spirit rushes in. And then suddenly, there's fiery, like tongue type thing. That's how they describe it. Descending on the people. And they start speaking in tongues. And then they're able to speak each other's languages. And now they're able to understand each other and can be unified that way. Is God undoing himself? Did God go, I goofed up back in Genesis. I want to fix it now. Tongues. No. It is unity based on God. That's what's happening in Pentecost. It's unity based on God, not unity based on man. It's unity based on God. The purpose of the tongues was for sharing the gospel to other people who didn't speak the same language. That was the purpose of it. The whole purpose of Pentecost was that the Spirit would fill people in such a way that the gospel would be spread regardless of language barriers. And so it was unity based on pointing people to God, not pointing people to man. Here in Genesis, humanity was united, pointing themselves to themselves. So God split them. And then God works continually from that point forward to try to reunite humanity in a way that points to him. And that's his goal. That's why we have descriptions of the church as many parts but one body. And constantly we get unity metaphors all throughout Scripture as God tries to point people back to himself. And so now you may be thinking, okay, how does this actually fit for us now? How can we actually take this and understand this for today, if you will? Okay, we talked about Babylon, right? And we talked about these, and we talked about confusion of languages and the splitting of people and whatnot. We talked about all of that. How does this actually impact us now? Just in case you're missing it, I want to just delve some time onto this. I know you guys are all intelligent people, and the people streaming online are smart, or they wouldn't be able to stream online, and they're all capable people. But sometimes you just gotta reword things in order to make sure nobody misses it. So allow me a moment, since we're gathered together, I got your attention. At least you're looking my way. Allow me this moment to at least try to delve into this just a little bit. We here are part of a worship service. We are filled with people, well, some. Many people are gone because of the holidays, so make sure you tell them that you missed them in service. When we are gathered, there's pride here. Okay, number one, point blank, when other people are gathered together, there exists pride. Okay, why? Because we're all sinful beings. And when someone says, I want to find a church where there's no pride, well, you're going to find a church that's empty. And once you show up and start it, it's going to be filled with pride because you're there. You know, the person says, well, I don't have any pride. Well, that's a very proud statement. Thanks for proving my point. Well, if you call me proud one more time, I want to beat you up. Huh? You're proving my point with every swing. Good job. You're humble. I love Weird Al Yankovic's song, Amish Paradise. Well, I'm twice as humble as thou art. There you go. When people are gathered, there is pride. And every worship service has the potential of being equal or the equivalent of a high school class reunion. It has the equivalent. Because some people, they only see each other on Sundays because of jobs and where they live, that we gather together here to be able to worship God here. And so we're here and we only sometimes see each other on just that day. And so here we are and we say, how has your week been? Oh, I can't wait to tell you. I did this and this and this and this. Really? What did God do? Oh, well, He was there for all of it. Why not start there? So what was your week like? Oh, man, God has been just blessing me. He helped me with this and this and this and this. And was it a bad week? Man, I'm alive. I'm here. God got me through this and this and this. And it's been hard. Please keep me in your prayers, because I need to rely on God more now than ever. Okay? It needs to start with God. That's the attitude. But we have the potential of starting it with us. To be able to say, look how many people we have filling in our chairs. Wow, we're better than that one church way over there. In fact, we're the third biggest of our association. Woo! It doesn't say much for association. But that's how people have that attitude. And then sometimes pastors will get together, and it's a big bragging session. They're just talking about, we have this many people and this many ministries, and we had this number of baptisms. Oh, yay, but make it about God, not about your church. And so we have to realize that coming here to worship is about worshiping God, not our week. Not our month, not our lives. It's about worshiping God. Studying Scripture is not about how much knowledge someone has. It's about how great God is and what more can we learn about Him within His Word. Tithing is not about money. I can give more than you can. Well, my week's been worse than yours, so I have to tithe less than you because I'm worse than you. That's inverted pride. Tithing's not about pride. It's not about money. Tithing's about, hey, God has blessed me and I'm giving back. It's about God. It's all supposed to point to God. But we have the potential of pride here. We do. We have to recognize that and battle against that. We also have an additional problem. People are designed to spread. We are designed to supposed to go out and spread, not just stay in one little place. Okay, I mean, think about it. What does it say when people get married? What are they supposed to do? Live forever in mom and dad's basement and have a family down there? They're supposed to leave their mother and father and then go and build a family. It's about spreading. It's about going abroad. That's what it's about. It's about going out. But what's interesting is many churches are all turned inward. They're almost like closet Christians. I almost titled this Coming Out of the Closet, just because it's what Christians need to do. And I find it interesting that the homosexual community is more vocal than the church. I find that very intriguing and disturbing, that the homosexual community actually has, in many ways, more passion, more outspokenness, more courage and boldness than the average Christian in a church. And it shouldn't be that way. The church has all the more reason to be vocal because we have something to actually boast in. We don't have to boast about ourselves and our own orientation and our own rights for this or that or whatever. We can boast in the Lord. We have Jesus to boast about. We have Jesus to be, it's like, hey, I got a life ring. We're all drowning in water, but I got a life ring, and the ring's big enough for you. Come on in. And I can boast in the life ring. I'm not going to drown. And you don't have to drown. Come, meet Jesus. Hop on the life ring. You know, repent of your sin. Come on the life ring. Here it is. It's Jesus. I mean, that's boasting. That's something to boast about. But instead, the church is quiet, and it's time to come out of the closet. Because here's the thing, a church is supposed to have in-house ministry. Absolutely true. We need to look out for each other. We need to take care of each other. We need to support each other, uplift each other, cry with each other, laugh with each other, hug each other. You know, we're supposed to come here to learn about Jesus and to work together to love Jesus. We're supposed to have in-house ministry. But we're supposed to go out and live like Jesus. We're supposed to have ministry not just in-house, but also out-house. And if a church doesn't have outhouse ministry, it might as well do its job in an outhouse. Because the church that's silent is just being flushed down an outhouse. That's all that's left of it. We must get out. I mean, think of it. The average Christian doesn't even tell people about Jesus. I'm wondering if we were to gather all of us here and were to line up and write on a piece of paper in the last 7 days, who have you talked to Jesus about? How many people would actually be able to write something down? Or if we're just been so busy with holidays that we're walking around just kind of saying happy holidays and just running through, and we're hiding, but even in that, we're hiding behind a phrase, happy holidays. No more reason is ever so evident to say Jesus' name than to say Merry Christmas. I mean, it's there. It's obvious. It's in our face. If ever a Christian had the excuse to be able to say anything, it's now. I mean, every other day of the week, I can understand you have to actually create a conversation, and it can be awkward and out of our comfort zone. You know, cry me a river. But that's the way it is. It's out of our comfort zone. But on Christmas, we have every excuse in the book to say, Merry Christmas. Right. I mean, even though that's not sharing the gospel, it's at least starting a conversation. But even Christians are saying, Happy Holidays. I'm like, give me a break. I want to take off my shoe and slap you. Christmas, it's about Jesus. Okay? That's what it is. We need to go out and actually talk to people about Jesus. But the average Christian, what do? They'll just walk in the store and walk out, and they won't say a word to anyone, even when they're standing in line. They won't say a word to anyone, and they won't share anything with coworkers on lunch break or after work. Some people won't even invite people to church because they just don't talk to anybody. And some people will at least invite people to church, but then they're hoping that the sermon will do the witnessing for them because they don't want to do it themselves. And we're supposed to be vocal. Vocal. I mean, think of it this way. Does the homosexual community try to invite people to their rallies to let them know that they're out of the closet? No. What do? They stand in the street and they shout it. What should we do? We should shout it. We should tell people, Jesus loves you, plain and simple. Here's Christmas. Woohoo! Perfect excuse. Baby in the manger. Why is the baby in the manger? So he can go to the cross. Why is he going to the cross? So he can die. Why did he die? So he can rise again. Why is he rising again? So he can conquer death and the grave and forgive sin. So that we can have a relationship with God again. Woohoo! I mean, that's what it's supposed to be about. But we're closet Christians. And we don't share. It's like as if we were on the Titanic and it's going down and people are drowning and we have a life raft and we're saying it's my life raft. Now I'm not even going to let you look at it. Turn around. And we're going to let them drown. You ever seen the movie Titanic? The ending haunts me. When I hear the screams of the people in the water and I see all these people on the boats and they're just watching and I think to myself, that's what the church is doing. They're watching a world die. They're watching. And they're saying, at least I'm not the one in the water. How horrible is that? I almost think that God should just tip the boat over and get in the water and see what it's like. You know, it's just, how horrible is that? And some people will say, well, as long as we got our four walls, then we can get together, have worship, do our duty, and all is good, and then we can go to our lives and live normal. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. If a church ever gets that way, may the building get lost so they can realize that ministry belongs in the community. Some people have told me, John, are we going to end up losing the building? I'm like, I don't care. If we do, who cares? We're going to go meet someplace else. The church doesn't need this because we're supposed to be out there anyway. It's where we belong. We belong out there. We gather here as a place of warmth where we don't have to sit out in the snow and we can worship and praise and not be disrupted by traffic or honking of horns or whatever. Yay. But when we leave here, what should we be? Mouth open, sharing Jesus to people. That's what we're supposed to be. Hopefully we don't have these words in our minds, that we hope that we can become great. And that we can just be here and not be scattered everywhere. God wants His name to be great. And God wants us to scatter about. Because there are people down that street, and people in that county, and people in those cities that are lost and need to know about Christ. We need to scatter. We need it. Let's have a word of prayer.